Our first review of the day is going to be for the film Wicked, which is the adaptation of the Broadway play, which is an adaptation of the film, which is an adaptation of the book. So there we go. We got a film adaptation of this, and this we have starring Cynthia Erivo as Elphaba, and we got Ariana Grande, who's Galinda. There, make sure to pronounce that correctly, Galinda. Got to add that
Galinda.
good sound in there. So like I said, based on the very huge Broadway play Wicked, there is I think still running, right? Wicked
Well,
there.
yeah, it's up there. It's probably it's gonna be the longest. Like, if you're a tourist, you're either gonna see The Lion King, Hamilton, or Wicked now. Like, Family Opera's closed on Broadway for like 2 years now, so it's either those three that you go see. Wicked was actually the first show I ever saw like on stage. Like, I saw it in Atlanta on a tour,
Yeah.
and it was so cool. I loved it.
And that's where we saw Kristen Chenoweth, and we also saw the wickedly talented Adina Menzel there, who made
Yeah,
their appearance on there as Galinda and
my
as
poor girl.
Elphaba. And this is kind of very much the backstory of Wizard of Oz, a prequel to it, of like how did the Wicked Witch of the West become the Wicked Witch of the West? What happened?
Mhm.
She was just this misunderstood young woman there who had trouble with her powers, as we see here, played by Cynthia Erivo, who when she gets kind of emotional, upset, she has ability to kind of her powers act up. She's got telekinesis powers, much like I guess like a Carrie or something like that. They're very
Mhm.
much tied into her emotions that you have there. And then it's about her attending, which is basically it's Hogwarts. I mean, she's attending Shiz University there, where she runs in to Ariana Grande's character Galinda there, and they room together. And you see kind of the backstory of a kind of all these characters that we know famous from the Wizard of Oz story.
Yep.
Yes. So I'm gonna pass it around here, get you people's opinion on it. Christina, what are your thoughts on Wicked? And this is part one, which they
Yes.
don't say that in the actual marketing of the movie. They kind of hit
But
that
the
that this
title card, they do.
in the title card when you see the opening sequence there, which people were taking photos in the theater of like, hey, I'm showing my Wicked. I'm seeing Wicked. I'm gonna take
I
a photo.
like the text. That was why I took a photo. I'm like, oh my god, it's the same text from the Wizard of Oz. What? Like,
Yeah, so a lot of people were doing that. A lot of people, some people were mad, some people were not. But yeah,
yeah.
so Christina, what are your thoughts on Wicked here?
Well, as someone who loves the Wizard of Oz like to death and like knows like I could probably play the entire film in my head right now, I love the callbacks to the Wizard of Oz, especially in this film. They really expanded on it. I like the fact that you could possibly blame Gregory Maguire for creating the villain origin story, especially for a lot of female villains, because we rarely see them for like male villains. And so that's why you see Maleficent being, retold or making Elsa another Idina Menzel character, a good a misunderstood type of character or whatnot, or even Cruella de Vil having a sympathetic backstory. But it all starts with Alphaba. And what I like is that growing up, and looking at clips of Margaret Hamilton, she kind of hated the fact that people actually were afraid of her because she only had 12 minutes of screen time in The Wizard of Oz, and yet it made an impact. You could say she was probably the first villain. The Wicked Witch of the West was probably the first mainstream villain in film history, if you really think about it. And so I think knowing, with Wicked and the books and also different versions of the lore, I think she would appreciate this this musical, because it actually gives her a proper fleshed out background story about how it's like she wasn't really wicked. It's just society needed an enemy and viewed her that way. So I love that they did not cut anything. I mean, this movie's long. It ends with basically, the end of Act One, but I thought that it was very fleshed out. They added more dialogue. Exactly, Conan. The political undertones were not that subtle. They're a little bit subtle in the stage show, but they were like, at a time, this is actually a perfect allegory for fascism and perfect timing considering, who's president right now. But yeah, I think I was honestly surprised that this film did so well. I thought it was like, yeah, it's gonna be pretty good, yeah. But when I saw it, I kept getting over emotional because, again, as someone who loves the stage show and loves the Wizard of Oz, I was able to pinpoint every single solitary little Easter egg that was just in part one alone. Because part two, you'll see more of the Wizard of Oz um, story being played in part two because she's not necessarily full blown wicked yet. So I have a feeling that part two might just do even better than part one. And for those who are like, it's a musical, I get it, but the film, the songs actually help tell the character story and what they're feeling and what they're doing, which it doesn't seem like it goes on forever. It doesn't seem like this movie goes slow, even though it's as long as it is. It really went by rather fast. And by the time Defying Gravity came, I'm like, oh man, we gotta wait a full year. Like, that's when things start to happen. So I always tell people, like, if you're someone who's not a big musical fan, but you love The Wizard of Oz, or you're a huge, like, political, like, you like the novel, I'm like, there's more tie-ins. Exactly, Conan. There's more tie-ins to the original novel in this film, and I wonder if part two will get a PG-13 rating because things do get a little more scary, a bit more intense, more sexual. And I just wonder how they will tackle some of those things that they kind of allude to just in the stage show. But with the film, they're able to show more and not tell us much.
What about you, Chris? What do you think?
Um, I love musical theater. When I was younger, my mom got me started with Grease and West Side Story, and then when I was 10 years old, I found Rent by myself.
Yeah.
I found Sweeney Todd by myself. I found Hairspray by myself. When I was I saw Wicked 8th grade. It was a school field trip from Maryland on a charter bus to New York. Saw the show, came back the same day. It was great, and admittedly, I like Wicked. It's not my favorite musical, but I like it just fine. And this movie was a great adaptation. It reminded me how much I love Dancing Through Life.
Yes.
I was like, I forgot that song. It's in my head. It's only Gravity and Popular, but that song is probably my third favorite in the entire show because I love the melody.
Yeah.
I thought Cynthia Erivo did a great job as Elphaba. I love that a Black woman was painted green to play this character who is marginalized and ostracized by society. And they say at the beginning of the movie, the beginning of the show, is someone born wicked, or do they have wickedness thrust upon them? Elphaba is responding to how the world is treating her. She's not an evil person. She's not a bad person. Same with Angelina Jolie's Maleficent and those other and Emma Stone's Cruella. They were done wrong by people who they loved and trusted, and this is what you get. You get retaliation. I thought Ariana Grande was so funny in this movie. Her comedic timing, all of those stage kind of like isms that like the humor that the audiences who love theater love. She was just the hair flipping and just the drama. Just she was perfect as Glinda. And for me, the backlash they're getting for the press tour and like the crying, you don't understand theater kids.
Yeah.
These are roles they wanted for a very long time, especially Ariana Grande. This is like a dream come true for her, despite all of her other accolades before this. But, they're breaking down because they're proud of their work. They are artists who are proud of their work. So maybe lay off of them. I understand theater culture isn't understood or appreciated by everyone. Some might even say it's a dying art. I disagree. But this movie is long, but it is only act one. And Defying Gravity, the last 15 minutes of this film is breathtaking. I kept getting goosebumps over and over again as Cynthia Erivo like modulates and key changes. Just kept, her voice just kept going up and up and up. And when she first starts singing, she sounds like an alto, but then her voice has incredible range. I'm like, she's really getting up there. And I personally really, really loved it. And Act 2, the next film, is going to be significantly darker because of what has to happen. A lot of characters who we met and fell in love with in this movie are going to go through a very sad and dramatic transformation through magic. But yeah, I personally really enjoyed Wicked, and I'm glad it's now past Grease. It's like the highest grossing musical of all time.
Mm.
And yeah, it's led by a Black woman, and I couldn't be happier that people are really enjoying this and responding to the film this way.
Yeah, what's I have a question for you guys. If you know the Wizard, what was your favorite Easter egg like from like the Wizard of Oz? Because mine definitely, I have two. Mine was when they rescued that frightened little lion cub. I wonder who that little lion cub ends up being. When I was like wink wink nudge nudge. People were like, oh wait. I'm like, you. Why would they emphasize a lion cub who's frightened? But like when they're riding on that same bicycle that Miss Gulch is riding in Wizard of Oz that Elva was riding on, there's a basket in the back, and the little lion cub peeks his head out like Toto does. And then another one is when they go see the wizard. Elphaba's like freaking out, like she goes to try to run away, but Glinda stops her. That's what the lion did in the Wizard of Oz when the Tin Man Scarecrow were like, no, you got to come with us. You got to come with us. I was able to pinpoint a lot of those like Easter eggs because of how well I know the Wizard of Oz, and it got me like teary-eyed and emotional. I'm like, oh, I get it.
Yeah. Well, I got a film confession to make. I've actually never seen the Wizard of Oz. So I've never actually seen it before there. It's
Trust
just like
me.
one of those movies that it gets so reference munched in pop culture there. You feel like you have just seen it already. I mean, I pretty much know all the beats to basically what happens there with Wizard of Oz. So yeah, what about you, Chris? I mean, you've probably seen Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, I've seen Wizard of Oz. I don't think I haven't seen it in a long time, so my memory of it isn't that strong to catch Easter eggs. I just know when I watched this movie for the first time, I was remembering the Broadway show. So spoiler alert, can we do spoilers for Wicked? People who don't know.
Yeah.
The show is 20 years old. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Fiyero becomes the Scarecrow. And the first time I watched the movie, I was like, oh, life is painless when you're brainless. I'm like,
thoughtless.
Oh, he's the Scarecrow. He wants to
like and even his choreography is very Ray Bolger-esque.
It's very like a lot of flopping around, a lot of kicks. Yeah, very much like the original Scarecrow. And then the actor who plays Bach, Ariana's new man, he's the
I get it. Yeah, and the way he moves too, he does like a little lean.
But he steps on books he moves he moves like a C-3PO. Like he moves like a
and he even said like pay attention to how the characters move and the silhouettes. Because he's like, that's, and also too, they gave him his last name Woodsman. The character of the Tin Woodsman is in L. Frank Baum's novel. So it's like, they could have just not give him a last name like that to make it so obvious. But then again, there are people who only saw the Wizard of Oz when they were children and don't watch it as adults. And it's not going to click for a lot of them. But for our Movie Night Co's KT, who watched the Wizard of Oz finally, did not like the Wizard of Oz, she loved Wicked because she likes that it fills in a lot of those gaps in the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, and just going back real quick to who is it? It makes sense that Bach is the Tin Man because out of all the love going on in the story, you could argue that he's the most like certified lover boy. You know, like he's the one who's like, I really want Glinda, but I'm also going to show this Rose Eva Rose. Nessa Rose, thank you. I'm still gonna show Nessa loves some love, even though I really like her, but I don't love her. Like there's, he has a lot of dealings with the heart, so it makes sense that he's the Tin Man. And then yeah, the Cub. So I didn't capture any Wizard of Oz Easter eggs, but I just noticed. And at the very beginning, the man who sneaks into the house is the wizard. That's just Jeff Goldblum's character. You don't see his face, but you hear his voice. It's all jazzy, razzle dazzle. I was like, yeah. So it was definitely a reminder for me.
Yeah, but I do like they were like poppies. That's emphasis on the poppies. Like, notice how Fiyero was the only one not impacted by the poppies, just like the Scarecrow wasn't. Like those little things. And I'm like, oh, okay. She's going to figure out Dr. Dillman, the goat professor, loves poppies. And like, they're like, yeah, we're going to, again, this alludes to the Wizard of Oz, and she knows the power of the poppies and how they put people to sleep because they're pretty much an opioid and all that. So,
question, because I've heard for people who do really love the Broadway play that they were kind of disappointed by this movie. Have you heard that at all from people who really, really do love the Broadway play? I've heard that some. That
as someone who's known people who've done the Broadway production, touring productions, I know the musical arranger, Seymour Remus. I A lot of people who are in the theater community, they thought that this is how you adapt a movie musical. You don't cut stuff out. You expand on like if it's lore. Like we haven't had a really good like critically acclaimed musical like movie musical since Chicago, and that was like 21 years ago.
Mm.
Like because since then, a lot of movie musicals have had some success, but a lot of them try to replicate Chicago. You can't replicate what Chicago does and what it did, what
Mm.
Rob Marshall did. You just have to figure out a way to maybe like which I personally like Tim Burton's Sweeney Todd adaptation. He took out the elements of the stage show, like the narration songs, and just showed, not tell, which is what you kind of have to do with a movie musical adaptation. You have to take like the feeling of being in a stage show because it's very different to go from stage to screen.
Chris, have you heard anything as far as any people in that realm, theater, people who did love the real Broadway musical a lot, say this was disappointing?
I have not. Only people who didn't enjoy are people who I've heard who didn't enjoy are people who don't gravitate towards musicals, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But people, the theater kids out there who are going in droves to see this movie, I have not heard anything negative yet about
Yeah.
that.
So for someone like me, like I said, coming into this, wasn't having a lot of expectations for it. I thought, okay, let's see what we kind of got with this. And I was pleasantly surprised. I liked it quite a bit there. I very much kind of enjoyed it. I thought the performances from Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande are absolutely fantastic in this. Ariana Grande, a lot what she's doing is very good. Her, like you said, her comedic timing. I don't know how much they based it off of the performances of Adita Menzel and then of Kristen Chenoweth, who did the Broadway, how much they're channeling that, and then plus their own thing with it. But yeah, like the comedic time of Ariana Grande is really good. And I think this is the first time I've ever seen her, I guess, as the lead in something. I've seen her in bit parts in movies, but this is the first time I've
Yeah.
ever seen her as leading a project. And I think she kind of does a fantastic job in that. I don't know if they're going to get nominated for this. I would love to see them get nominated for it.
They probably will. I mean, this Oscar season is kind of dull. We thought it would be a Dune type of situation where Dune gets everything, but I feel like between Dune and Wicked, we're gonna get dicked down, guys, this award
uh,
season.
Some people were talking about like when they showed trailers for this movie, a lot of people were disappointed by the look of it, the lighting, the coloring of it. Were you all kind of disappointed the way it looks? They're finally actually seeing the movie there.
If they decided to go Technicolor, I feel like it would have been too bright. Like I know Pearl did a lot of like Wizard of Oz tributes, like the whole entire movie just it's Wizard of Oz tribute. Technicolor made sense because if we know what X looked like, it looked like a gritty 70s, exploitation film. And then same with like Maxine, where it looks like something from the 80s. But I feel like with some of the darker tones of Wicked, I feel like this cinematography look overall is good because it does remind me of the lighting for the stage show.
Okay. What about you, Chris? Did you have an issue with the lighting at all, coloring?
I did see those comments regarding the trailers looking dull, but I thought the final product, when I saw it on the big screen, looked fantastic. That's just my opinion. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And I think the movie, I mean, actually seeing it on the screen, actually it doesn't I don't have an issue with it myself there. I think the performances of it, the musical sequences does overshadow that a lot and then really shines in that. Also really good supporting cast you mentioned Fierro, Jonathan Bailey there who comes in as the prince there, the dashing prince.
Yeah.
40 years old going to university there. Um
It's so funny. Cynthia Erivo is almost 40 as well, but it's like, I guess Oz is different from like, if you look young, it's fine, I guess, but it's just
Yeah.
abusive because Fierro in the novel is like tan with diamonds all over his body and long hair.
Okay.
So they're like, let's just make him really handsome in the show, in the movie, that'll be good.
Yeah, you also got him. You have Michelle Yeoh is in this. Who Michelle Yeoh? She's hot right now. She's in everything you can imagine. Michelle Yeoh, who's
She's
She's in everything,
good.
everywhere, all at once. She's just
yeah,
Yes, exactly. She's
yeah,
good in this. Like she's really tapping to like, I'm a motherly figure with no ulterior motives.
yeah. Because she's Madame Marble there, who she's the kind of the Dumbledore, I guess, of this movie. There you see her kind of coming in there, and she's the one that's kind of taking Elphaba under her wing, under her tutelage there,
And she
and
controls the weather.
she controls the weather there. I guess
Mhm.
there's something with women in weather, and their hair has to be gray. I guess that's a prerequisite, I guess, to control the weather.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so there you have that kind of going on. Jeff Goldblum, who comes in, he's the wonderful Wizard of Oz
He
there.
was born. This like his whole career has led up to this moment, honestly.
Yeah, and he's fantastic. He shows up only for a little bit in this, and he's actually really good in this, and good at playing that kind of Oz character. I thought he was good in that. So yeah,
Yeah.
good cast here you have. The woman who played Nessa Rose, though, Marissa Boyd, she's also good there. I heard she's been receiving some hate comments there from people.
Aggressive comments of wanting to cause harm and push Nessa out of her wheelchair, or that she deserves her disability, are two very gross and harmful comments that real disabled people, including myself, have heard before. I am scared also because I have seen firsthand what has happened to my disabled peers who are outspoken online when it comes to calling out ableism, and why jokes of standing and being a vegetable, which is a derogatory term, by the way, for disabled people, and a comment that I saw about Nessa. These disabled creators' comments are flooded with ableist comments. When speaking on ableism, they're told to just take a joke, and that they're asking for too much and to stop complaining.
How they are going to do that, if they do that in part two, if that's kind of going to come up there. But she was also good as
Yeah.
well, and you see like a lot of the political themes that come into this movie. You mentioned with a lot of that happen, the metaphors, the analogies of there, and the kind of the big political thing in here is animals. The animals
Yeah.
of the land of Oz are being oppressed and being captured, and they don't want the animals to speak anymore.
Yeah.
So you kind of got that. That's how white women, they're gonna get really involved. They don't let them dogs, put
Mhm.
them in cages.
Yeah.
But so yeah, you got kind of that kind of going on with this. That's the big political theme of it as well. And then also that was a big theme of the Broadway play as well.
Yeah.
The political
Because
theme.
it's this is how you put it. The wizard is a fascist. Alphaba is a Marxist, and Glinda ends up being a neoliberal, because there's always that saying: you scratch a liberal and a fascist bleeds.
Yeah.
So she's a very complicated character, and we'll see more of that conflicting feeling of getting all she wants, but was it worth it? Especially in the first song of Act Two. So we'll get to see all of that. Glinda maturing a little bit more and realizing, is all this really? I got everything I want, but I'm still not that happy.
Mm, yeah. And you see, because the movie, opens up with the Wicked Witch of the West being dead, and then she's recounting the story of what happened in their relationship and everything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, really wonderful moments in this movie, especially, yeah, I think Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo have such great chemistry and really sell it. So I'll go around, give you final thoughts and rating. So, Christina, what's your final thoughts and rating for Wicked?
So I definitely, as someone who like the first musical that I ever became obsessed with as a child was Wicked. This was everything I could have hoped for and wanted in a film adaptation for such a very powerful musical that did not win Best Musical. Avenue Q did, by the way. People forget about that. And if you're someone who's not a musical lover, but take your kids to see it, because it's they know, if you know the Wizard of Oz, you should go see it, because it does give an interesting spin on the lore. The songs are catchy, believe it or not, they are very catchy. The acting's phenomenal. The political undertones are there for those who are like leftists. I'm like, honestly, guys, if you're on the left, you should go see this movie, because it really shows that what's happening right now in our political climate is a reality, and this movie's a reflection of what's going to happen, because again, Trump's not in office yet. I give it, let's see, out of 5 witch hats, I give it 5 out of 5 witch hats.
So on our scale, that would be, yeah, that'd be a This Is Cinema. So you give it This Is Cinema there on our scale,
Yes.
5 out of 5. What about you, Chris? Final thoughts, rating for Wicked?
Final thoughts. Yesterday on Twitter, there was a thread about all the people who auditioned for parts in this movie. Cheryl Lee Ralph auditioned for Madame Marble and didn't get it. I'm going to assume it's because of Michelle Yeoh's history with John M. Chu and Crazy Rich Asians. But when she was doing EEAAO, she said she was very nervous about the singing part because she does not sing like at all. It terrifies her. So, and Shirley Ralph is like the original Dream Girl. So I don't know why, you know, I I I love Michelle Yeoh. She was great in this movie. I think Shirley Ralph would have devoured this role as Madame Marvel. But what's your scale again, Josh?
So
For
the highest you can give something, this is cinema. Then below that is a peak. Then below that is a tune in, and then below that is a stream it. As far as positive rating.
I'm gonna say this is cinema. I don't have any. I don't have any complaints. I don't have any criticisms. And if I do, they're nitpicks. They're really minor. Um, like I said, Rent is my favorite musical of all time. Wicked probably isn't even in my top five, but I still love the musical. I love Popular. Ariana was great. I love Defying Gravity. Cynthia Erivo killed it. Again, Dancing Through Life has been it's stuck in my head. But like
Same.
since I've seen the movie, that song is just in my head. So yeah, I have no major critiques or qualms with this film. I'll say this is cinema.
Wow.
Really
Okay.
enjoyed it.
To this is cinemas. Yeah, I mean, I greatly enjoyed it. Walking into it, wasn't expecting much there. Really loved the performances, like I said there. The musical sequences are also very good there. The stuff with Dance Through the Life, Defying Gravity, Popular is really works there. Ariana Grande, um, I guess she's sticking with the white race right now. That's what race she's in right now. She's sticking with that.
She
Uh,
still has a lot of self-tan to scrub, though, in my opinion. She still looked a little too tan to me.
really? Okay, I
Yeah.
thought she was.
She's a
I
lot paler than that. For those who don't know, when Ariana Grande was on Broadway in this musical 13, I would write to a lot of Broadway stars, including her. And we always said like we would be each other's Elphaba and Glinda, and that never happened, did it, guys?
Mm, yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I think she's pretty fairly white in this, but I loved her in this. I'd love to see both of them get nominated. Like I said, I bet you, yeah, it's kind of a weaker Oscar year. So I see this getting nominated for probably makeup and hair and a lot of those kind. You know what I mean? Production design, that type. Especially when they go to Emerald City, which looks really good. I see them maybe doing some stuff like that with that. Um, yeah. So for me, I would give it a peak. I'd give it a peak for Wicked there. Do you all think they could have done it in one movie, or do you think it's necessary to split it up?
It's too long.
But even then, I would have wanted to watch the whole. I would have watched the whole thing in one setting. But I know people be like, "This shit's too long." They would have needed like a 15-minute intermission actually for people to go to the bathroom and get more snacks before starting part two. That's all I would. That's probably if they would have done that, because the Wicked trailer shows Dorothy and all of them. So a lot of people are like, "Oh my gosh, the whole movie." I'm like, "Nah, they're fucking with us. That's what it is. It's gonna be split in two parts."
Yeah. And this movie is 2 hours and 40 minutes. This movie
Mhm.
is so it's a fairly kind of long movie there. I don't think you feel it that much, the length of the movie. I think it goes by pretty well there. But yeah, part two, which I think is coming out what in a couple
November
years,
next year. Yeah.
November next year. So anniversary of when this movie's out, basically.
Yep.
Yeah, and this movie smash hit, like Chris was saying. I mean, this is the highest grossing movie based on a Broadway musical ever there. So you kind of got that success for it there.
Yep.
Yeah,
Take
so
that, Les Mis. You could have been better.
yeah,
Les
so
Mis, Spielberg's West Side Story,
Yep.
John M. Chu's In the Heights.
Yeah.
Those were like pandemic times, so like those
He
movies.
and I loved In the Heights because that's actually I knew Lin-Manuel before Hamilton, so I prefer In the Heights over Hamilton. That's like my hottest take yet. John M. Chu should direct more movie musicals because it seems like he knows what he's doing. Like he understands the source material.
How do you feel about West Side Story back in 2021?
I thought it was good. I like the fact they didn't have to put fake tan on the characters who are Hispanic.
They hired actual Latinos to play Latinos.
Yes, I mean, poor Natalie Wood though. She worked her ass off and got nothing for it. To me, that's her best performance in the original one.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, Rita Moreno was not prepared to win the Best Supporting Actress Oscar at all until she realized West Side Story was crushing it at the Oscars. I still prefer the classic, the first version over this one because it doesn't have that nostalgic feeling.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like that's how you do a remake of a movie musical that's filmed. I wish they would do that with Hello Dolly, considering Barbara Streisand is actually now of age to be Dolly Levi and not some 24-year-old. That was confusing to me. Remake Phantom of the Opera while we're at it. Let's do it all.
Yeah. And directed by John M. Chu, like you all said. His credits include he did Step Up to the Streets, which is his very first movie. He did Step Up 3D. Then I don't know what the hell happened here. He did G.I. Joe Retaliation. I don't know what the fuck happened there. Then he did Jim and the Holograms. Now You See Me Too. Then he did Crazy Rich Asians, which probably did that help probably put him on the map with Crazy Rich Asians? Yeah,
yes. A lot of people are like, oh my god, he's a good filmmaker now. It takes some filmmakers a while to get to some good cinema. Like, I mean, James Gunn, like it took him a while to get some good, and now he's well trusted with DC now. So it's like, you gotta find your style, you gotta find projects that you really connect with and feel passionate about. And it's clear when John M. Chu is passionate about a project, it actually looks and does pretty well.
Yeah. So, yeah. In theaters right now, looks to be a smash hit. Do you think this is going to make $1 billion, Wicked? You think? Maybe?
It might. It has the potential to. Its momentum is still strong. Its trajectory is still strong. So it has the potential to hit $1 billion.
Yeah. I mean, fun fact, Universal was inspired by the Barbie promotion, like the Barbie press tour, to go all out for Wicked. I'm like, thank God they took all the money they made from Oppenheimer and used it for the Wicked promo tour. I bet.
Yeah, I guess the lesson Universal took is we got to get gayer. We got to get much gayer, much more lights, much more singing.
Yeah,
we gotta make it gay, guys. Make it gay.
Hey, like this on the producers, make it gay, make it gay.
And I did see people dress up. I saw people dress up as Galinda. I saw people dress up as that. Yeah,
some fans.
Yeah,
a lot of people.
I wore emerald green for my. I was like, I'm gonna get a witch costume though. I'm gonna get Alpha. KT and I, we're going as Elphaba and Glinda for when we actually go over Wicked in February. So, but you know what? Speaking of, we're gonna be talking about Gladiator. You could say this film was for the gays, the she's, the gays, and theys. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of girls were thirst posting about Gladiator, and I was one of them.